Historical traces of the existence of the parish church of San Lorenzo, St. Lawrence, can be dated back to 1153, and we know that in 1487 it was erected as a collegiate church. In its primitive construction, it was located extra moenia, that is, outside the walls, and therefore before the Napoli Gate. It was precisely because of this location that in 1557 it was transformed into a defense bastion, as recounted by Canon Nicola Palma in his History of the City and Diocese of Teramo. In the defense structures made in Civitella in 1557, it was considered necessary to transform the church into an outpost against the enemy, and to demolish its bell tower, so that the French would not take possession of it. Palma continues, once the siege was lifted, it was decided to rebuild San Lorenzo no longer in the former area, but inside the walls, at the head of the square, where it stands today, thanks to a gift of 1,000 ducats, contributed by Philip II, towards the necessary expenses. The new building was initially built with a nave and a side chapel dedicated to Saint Ubaldo, who in the meantime had been elected patron of Civitella. It is said that on the occasion of the siege of 1557 by the terrible Count of Guise, the inhabitants of Civitella, mindful of what had happened in Gubbio in 1151, invoked the intercession of the Holy Bishop of Gubbio, and on May 16th, the feast day of the saint, the French, without a particular reason, spontaneously lifted the siege to direct their troops elsewhere. In the 18th century, the parish carried out an important renovation by adding to the original layout of the church. In fact, Palma also documents a pastoral visit of the Bishop of Teramo in 1777. In September 1777, Bishop Pirelli, visiting San Lorenzo for the first time, found that, thanks to royal permission, work was being done to embellish the church. The walls were being raised where once arches existed. The sacristy and the choir for winter were built, with embellishments of good stucco and paintings being added throughout the church. Then, expanding a small building used as an oratory, a chapel was built in front of the pre-existing one dedicated to Saint Ubaldo, so that the church became cross-shaped. These expansions and decorations were completed in 1790, as is attested by an inscription on the vault. The portal was completed by workers from Ascoli Piceno, but it is undoubtedly part of the first structure of the church. The interior of the church is characterized by large niches with altars and wooden furnishings of refined craftsmanship. In the niches were also placed majestic paintings, among which stand out that of Our Lady of the Rosary, followed by John the Baptist indicating the Messiah as proper to his vocation, and the figures of Saint Dominic and Saint Catherine. At the foot of the throne stand the figure of a deacon, certainly St. Lawrence, patron of the church, as well as that of a bishop, presumably St. Ubaldo, who offers the city of Civitella to the Mother of God. Opposite, you can admire the canvas of the Annunciation from the beginning of the 17th century, in which many find the pictorial style of Pomerancio. In the upper niche of the chapel, on the left, you can admire a wooden statue representing Saint Ubaldo, protector of the city since 1557. The stairs on the side of the chapel of Saint Ubaldo lead to the lower level, where you can admire the oratory of the Confraternity of the Poor Souls, and a painting depicting the deposition of the Lord between St. Francis and St. Mary Magdalene, work of Annibale Carracci. In 1944, the whole church of San Lorenzo was completely frescoed by the painter Cesare Zunica from Civitella. In the sacristy, inside the refined wooden cabinet, there is the silver bust relic of Saint Ubaldo by the artist Giuseppe Bendel, who, on the occasion of his celebrations on May 16th, is carried in procession through the streets of the town as a sign of the popular, living devotion to him. In the decades that followed the Great Renovation of 1790, the church naturally suffered many adversities, such as the shelling during the siege of the Piemontes in December 1860. It thus became more and more decrepit. The earthquake of April 6, 2009, was a severe misfortune that struck the city of L'Aquila, but was also strongly felt in Civitella and caused an evident leak in the already precarious roof of the church. However, thanks to the funding from the then Tercas Foundation, it was possible to carry out a major intervention that restored the entire roof and external masonry of the church as much as possible to consolidate the vaulted central nave. The serious seismic events, however, that followed again in 2016, and especially that of the end of October, highlighted other fragilities of the church and caused the partial collapse of the small vault in the sacristy that, due to its size and its exceptional state, had not been consolidated as was done in the nave. Currently, the church is still unusable and awaits the restoration of the parts damaged by these last events.